become in a huge population, large population. It does not diffuse further outwards. So there is a crammed mobility, there is a crammed business center, there are crammed housing, there are crammed, they have made all kinds of roads, but it is absolutely bad. Similar situation I am seeing now of Bangalore of 1965 and Bangalore of today. Same situation I am seeing of Hyderabad, which I saw in 1968. Excellent work done by the Nizams in setting up the complete infra for everything. What has gone wrong? What has gone wrong? That's the question you have to answer. What has gone wrong is the tremendous push for living within that space and not moving outwards. Population growing, but not working for all those elements which the earlier town planners could do. Sorry, I would be sarcastic and caustic to those who have planned the cities, whether it is Bombay or Madras or Chennai or Hyderabad or whatever that. And even the new roads and all the things which we have planned today. Our Honorable Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee had the wisdom to make the quadrangle for the road network, which has really eased out a lot of our problem. But I'm telling you, my friends, within next 10 years, the road infrastructure is going to be inadequate because the way we have no regulatory mechanism for that infrastructure to not to get clogged again by the business entities which are mushrooming along the roads. Now, that's the way if we continue, any smartness, anything will not have a life which will give you a sustained comfort of well-being all the time. So there are issues which are related to, actually I had planned my presentation on some lines, but I want to just give you a picture that why we are talking of this whole situation today, why our Honorable Prime Minister suddenly said that we should have smart cities. Because urbanization is a major thing that will happen. We cannot stop it. Because basically, from agrarian economies to industrial and service sectors, things will happen. People will move from villages to these places. And 90% of the world population growth will take place in developing countries, and India will not be left out from that. The trend is urbanization. And we have seen that every 30 people leaving rural Indian or urban areas every minute during the last 20 years. At this rate, country would need more than 500 new cities. And if you look at 2050 scenario, you will have most cities will become double in terms of population and more than double in terms of area. That is what is going to happen. What is the present trend? We have 1.4 billion people of the world who have no access to electricity. India accounts for more than 300 million. Water, 74% of the urban households in India are served by piped water supply. No Indian city has piped water for 24 hours a day. 7 days a week, maximum 4 to 5 hours is the average. Infrastructure, you need almost estimated about 1 trillion to improve the infrastructure over the next 5 years. Somebody was talking of what is the kind of money needed. Transportation, number of private vehicles are growing by more than 3 times by 2021. So if that is the trend, in fact, many people think that if we can improve the public-private transportation system, the public transportation system, this kind of clogging will not take place. Friends, I want to just give you an example of Delhi. Delhi has metro, almost now total network length is about 110 kilometers. But Delhi in the last 15 years has 3 times the population of the cars. If all the cars of Delhi come out on the road one day and put together, there's no parking space. That is a kind of density as far as the area is concerned. Now, what happened? We should have expected that the introduction of metro should have led to the reduction in the private ownership of the vehicles, but it has not happened. There's a psychological factor there that as you grow on the trajectory of economic development, the first tendency is to have ownership of a private vehicle. How do we change that? Even if I am now going to do doubling my metro or making BRT or whatever I will do, this psychological fact remains that people would like to have more and more of private ownership of vehicles. And that is where the issue of things are coming. That in the changing context today, if we are not able to take care of one aspect, and that aspect is consumerism. And that is what is related to the smart living beings, the smart human beings. If consumerism is not taken care of, then no resource which you will provide, no infrastructure which you will provide will be adequate for the coming generations. And that's why when I talked of sustainability during the panel discussion, I was very clear that this artificial world is growing so fast, using of all the natural resources, that this biological world is getting completely strained. As a result, smartness will vanish. As a result, you will have to crave for all the resources as we are looking today. Global warming, urbanization, all Niti Ayog, we are today talking of urbanization as a vehicle for economic growth. Because we see today that 30% of urban population of India, 30% is urban population, which adds to 60% of the GDP growth. Obviously, I would like to multiply this so that my GDP goes up. That means there's a very strong economic angle, and this becomes an engine for growth, and that's why government wants to have smart cities, more and more rural areas coming to the smart system. Whether we create existing cities as the smart cities, or we make new villages as the smart villages, or we have some via media in between. But the fact remains that we will have to urbanize the available population centers. How much we can urbanize, how we can urbanize, becomes, and what should be the extent to which we should urbanize. Now, for that, we should be very clear that is it just the technology or it is a combination of. That's why when you talk of smart cities, it is basically for employment, economic activities, everybody is coming there. So you have to have innovative services, concept to improve environmental sustainability, economic viability, and citizen well-being. All will come together. And that's why since morning, I think you must have heard of ICT-based technologies and non-ICT-based technologies and urban planning. I think Mr. Nanda mentioned and our Chetle Sahab has mentioned, urban planning in this country has been one of the major drawbacks. And unless we do something with respect to the urban planning, with sustainability as the point, well-being of the human beings the point, growth of population in the view, and all that, you will not be able to maintain what is called a urban system. Now, all the three factors are that it should be able to provide an economic growth that gives competitiveness, sustainability, and improved quality of life. This you must have seen since morning. You must have been listing all these pillars: technology factors, human factors, institutional factors. But most important thing, if you see in my slide, is environmental, economic, and social, which are the three pillars of sustainability. And the well-being is from viable, equitable, and livable. It's not just sustainability and it's not just the other. All of them have to be put together. And interventions are that variety of cities we are talking of. We talk of digital city, we sort of intelligent city, we talk of green city, we sort of virtual city, we sort of hybrid city. Now all of them get into one mode. And we talk of human factors, creativity in terms of learning city and knowledge. I was discussing with Dr. Salunke just now. What the education can provide for in this whole game of smart city. Obviously, very nicely brought out by Mr. Chitle that we don't have any major institution which is looking at how to plan for smart cities. The urban planning, I was in the School of Architecture at Bhopal. I discussed with the boys and girls who were passing out. I went for a convocation. I asked them, did you use the modern ways of technology for doing virtualization of a smart plant? I mean, not except those who have just surfed the internet once in a while. They were, yes, there's something called virtual. But the concept of virtual reality and virtualization and the simulation of the entire process of human behavior as well as the resources being utilized to meet the all conditions in an optimized manner. No such exercise is being neither done nor taught. Now, if it is not part of your system and syllabus, then how will you take care of all the human factors which are essential? And same is the case when you want to have institutional systems. Somebody was telling me, sir, I've got land, I have got money, but if I now apply for a smart city to be set up, it may take 3 years for me to get government clearances. The ease of doing business is most important, and that is the institutional factor, which is which provides you all kinds of issues, right from getting sanctions to taxation to financing to banking, and even to do that, all the skills which are required for that, and people's participation. Very nicely brought out by Mr. Chitle, that any scheme, if we are not able to get the consensus of the majority of the people on that scheme, then it will find impediments as you are implementing it. Of course, there has to be a time limit. It should not become like our Narmada project, where you have discussions, and ad nauseum we are continuing and we are not able to converge. So there has to be a mechanism to control that. But yes, participation should be there, and we should be able to make people accountable for all their decisions. This is the holistic view of what we need to do today. You have dimensions, as I mentioned to you, the environmental, economic, social, and you have all the environment, which is smart environment, smart utilities, smart mobility, and the services to citizens in a smart manner. With, if you take all dimensions, they can be all connected through the present day technology. So deployment of a smart city activity is carried out based on three technological planes and lays down the conditions for its competitiveness. What are those? Control centers, telecommunication networks, measuring systems, and they are social dimensions, economic dimensions, and environmental dimensions. And each one of them have to be catered for. These are some of the factors: smart energy, smart transport, smart waste management, smart social, smart buildings, all of them. Some will be controlled by the ICT, some will not be controlled by ICT, they will be controlled by the various other means which are non-ICT means. I'm not going to details because I think there have been a lot of discussion on many of them. But there are action areas. So let's look at the action area. For example, economic. City Axis is the institution, and smart city action field will be governance, economy, and mobility. Now, all this would require that smart city shall have participation, total transparency of all actions, public and social services, complete innovation system, entrepreneurship, and of course, involvement of all of them in a put together form. When you look at mobility, then traffic, public transport system, ICT infrastructure to control that. When I came today this morning, somebody was talking of red lights, people going and all that. Why not we, duration of the red light is controlled by the quantum of crowd which is moving in particular direction. Friends, I want to tell you, yes, it is a very good thought, and probably it is working very nicely in other cities. But I have seen in Delhi, the moment it is 9 o'clock, the lights are still on, the traffic on the road is less, and all of us want to quickly bypass the red light and go. Now, how does a system with this kind of mentality will work? No smartness will give you solution. So there is a major requirement for us to now work on our ethos, the ethical values, the civil sense, and the civility, as we call it, and stop accepting that everything will come to you without you working for it. I think Chitleji was mentioned very nicely that we have got into habit of getting all services without paying for them. Now that shall not be possible if you want to do things in the future. So similarly on environment you have issues, and similarly on the social you have issues which have to be taken care of. For example, if you take smart governance, we have everywhere complaint boxes. How many of those complaint boxes? Now we have got, for example, I was just telling somebody the story today that I got a beautiful lecture from the call center of Air India last night that I should come reach 1.5 hours before this, that, and all that. And I reached there. My flight was 2.5 hours delayed. Nobody informed me on SMS. Now, what do you do for that? Nobody informed me. And only when I was sitting for an hour, it was 8:30, I said, what happened, bhai? What are you doing or not? No, sir, flight is delayed. I said, gentlemen, yesterday you told me for 15 minutes elaborating that I should come. What happened to you? Why did you not inform me? Now, any system, again, good or bad, will always have the human factor, which is important for its efficacy. Many of them, public and social services. GIS, I want to give you an example. I was in the Flood Control Board meeting, Ganga Basin Flood Control Board. About half a dozen honorable chief ministers from the Neparian states were there. About 70 to 80 officials were there. Each one of them spoke for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, this thing, including the minister for. At the end of the day, we did not know what exactly is the problem. Then I said, because I am a scientist, so I have a problem that I want to always find a technical solution for a problem. So I told them, friends, what data you have for saying that this particular area needs embankment or this does not need embankment? What is that? No, sir, last year there was a flood here, so we want to contain it. I said, but year before last, was it there? No, sir, it was not there. So what is the data set you have? Oh, we don't know. Kuch ne bataya tha. So that was. I said, have you used the satellite image? Today after because this board was set up in 1972. Now they are talking of setting up a GIS system to monitor the flood areas. To set up. Friends, this is the whole problem of our system. If we are not going to use the